We are currently
in the Donetsk region in the city of Mariupol along the Azov coast. This past month, the crisis has escalated in this area. Russian border guards stopped virtually every vessel moving in the direction of the Ukrainian ports, searching it and checking the identities of its crew members. The Mariupol Sea Guard detachment controls the coast of the Azov Sea within the Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. The situation around the Ukrainian coast of Azov is being closely monitored around the clock.
Patrolling of the coastal region.
Where are we right now?
We're currently located in the Mariupol region. We're conducting patrols near the city.
Almost daily, Ukrainian border guards record the detainment of ships trying to head into the ports of Mariupol and Berdyansk by the Russians.
The current situation in the Azov Sea is highly complicated, as there have been repeated instances of provocations by the Russians. This includes the stopping of trade and fishing vessels. All of this can be considered a provocation from the Russians. The Mariupol Sea Guard detachment regularly sends out tactical groups for patrols and monitoring the coastal line, which they are responsible for.
Russia is gradually strengthening its presence in the Azov Sea, to which extent they transfer ships from the Caspian Sea. Border guards indicate that the actions by Russia mark a desire to establish sole control over the Azov Sea. They're preparing for the worst-case scenario.
If we speak about an adequate response specifically to the military strength of the Russian Federation, then the border guard, of course, will not be able to effectively counter any aggression by the Russian Federation. On the other hand, we, together with the armed forces of Ukraine and other representatives of the Ukrainian national security and defense sectors, are working on preparing an action plan for similar situations.
The fundamentals of the crisis were laid down even before Russian armed aggression over Ukraine, when most of the coast of the Azov Sea, as well as the navigable channel in the Kerch Strait, belonged to Ukraine. Russia was not happy with the situation, and in 2003 raised its first set of territorial grievances. This conflict was over the island of Tuzla. In September 2003, Russia started building a dam on the Kerch Strait, from its coast to the Ukrainian island. When the Russian dam reached the Ukrainian border pontoon, negotiations began. As a result, in October 2003, the construction of the Russian dam was stopped 100 meters from the Ukrainian island. And in December of the same year, Ukrainian President Leonid Kuchma and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed an agreement between Ukraine and Russia concerning the cooperative use of the Azov Sea and the Kerch Strait. This agreement declared that the Azov Sea and the Kerch Strait were historically inland waters. Warships and other vessels flying either the Ukrainian or Russian flag received full freedom of navigation. In fact, the agreement was to the satisfaction of Moscow's demands. The division of the Azov Sea and the Kerch Strait according to state borders, which Ukraine insisted on, did not happen. As a result, the norm of the international maritime law is not currently in place in the Azov Sea. The agreement concerning the use of the Azov Sea and the Kerch Strait becomes something more of a mine, which surfaced 11 years later. In 2014, Russia occupied both Crimea and the island of Tuzla, which was crucial for the construction of the Kerch Bridge. As the construction progressed, the Russians began behaving more brazenly in the Azov Sea. As of 2018, vessels operated by the FSB freely move around the Azov Sea, stopping vessels moving through the Kerch Strait and to Ukrainian ports daily to check and fully identify the crew. Experts call this a partial blockade of Ukrainian ports in the Azov Sea. In reality, this constitutes economic pressure on the Ukrainian regions of the Azov Sea. Oleg Tursky, the CEO of ship repair factory Azov Shipyard, which belongs to the Mariupol Investment Group, believes that the development of new directions, such as partial construction of an external water placement system, has been the management's intention for a long time.
Here are the work pieces on the dock. This is what we're working with for shipbuilding. We are building the tuning for the tanker, which will be assembled in Croatia. The total weight of the metal structure is around 420 tons, so we are building large parts here, and then we'll send them to Croatia at the end of the summer, where they will assemble the superstructure of the tanker. This is a very serious project.
But the Russian aggression in eastern Ukraine has already created serious obstacles for potential investors. The current crisis in the Azov Sea has only worsened the situation. In other sectors of the enterprises owned by the Mariupol investment group, such as grain shipment and ship repair, losses are also great. Even those customers not deterred by the war are facing difficulties. The Kerch Bridge does not allow entry to vessels that measure more than 33 meters in height. With the loss of every fifth ship, businesses are facing around a 30% loss.
Ship repair for the international vessels becomes a big problem because of the construction of the Kerch Bridge, and this entire uncomfortable situation, which is resulting in an outflow of foreign ship owners, because we have a 20-kilometer width wherein people are afraid of conflict territories. Vessels enter for 2, 3, 4 days, while ship repair takes a minimum of 3 weeks, and therefore it makes entering Azov Seas and Mariupol a risky matter. Over the course of 1 month, we lost 2 to 3 ships. One lost ship is a loss of 5 to 6 million hryvnia in a month. That's 30% loss. This is very serious.
The head of the grain terminal, another asset of the Mariupol investment group, says that it isn't just a matter of concrete enterprises along the Azov coast. This crisis affects a significant part of the region's economy.
This all negatively affects the work of the entire chain, the whole sector, both terminals, ports of the same ship owners, the same grain traders who have lost their contracts, which have their own charter ships planned to ship on these dates, and no later, because a vessel could get held up somewhere. They will suffer financial losses. This is an entire complex of negative effects. We hope that everything will be worked out for the better.
Another thing that can affect big companies located on the Ukrainian Azov coast as much as Russian aggression does is panicking. Heads of ports and enterprises concentrated in Mariupol insist that it is necessary to focus on the development of new areas of activity in order to help keep investors interested. For the Mariupol commercial seaport, this direction is the construction of new terminals. After the launch of the terminal for the shipment of the metal sheet, there will be a grain terminal.
When we had serious cargo losses, we lost, in absolute terms, somewhere around 8 million tons of cargo. Today, processing is 6 million, while at some point it was 15 to 17 million tons per year. You see the difference. Therefore, we decided to explore avenues for diversification and alternative freight flows. Of course, Ukraine is a strong agrarian country, and to not use this is unacceptable in my opinion. That's why a decision was made. A terminal was designed, and now construction is in full swing.
We will now head to Berdyansk to see how the holiday season has been affected and influenced by the situation in the Azov Sea, including the lives of locals as a whole. Berdyansk is a city on the coast of the Azov Sea in the region of Zaporizhia and the location of family-friendly recreation. From the beginning of the Azov crisis through the whole holiday season, 3 areas of the Azov Sea, including the area near Berdyansk, have been declared a zone of military exercise by the armed forces of Ukraine. The city executive committee has said that since 2014, when Russia occupied Crimea along with its resorts, the number of people going on holiday on the mainland has been growing, and the trend has been maintained this year despite alarming news.
The season has started well. As you may have noticed, there are quite a few people on holiday. Children's health and recreation facilities have opened. We have 9 of them this year. We currently have 2,402 children in the city who came for wellness procedures.
Fakel, or Torchlight, is a children's camp that operates as one of these recreational facilities. The facility was at full capacity last year. They say that the Azov crisis is particularly unheard of here. Does this somehow affect the desire of people to come here? Do they perhaps call in and check if it's still possible to swim in the sea?
You know, we work here as teachers, and our goal is not only to organize the process, but perhaps even the bigger portion of our role is to communicate with the parents of these children who are staying with us. For that reason, we accept up to 200 calls a day of various sorts, but not one call has been made regarding the issues you mentioned. Therefore, I can confirm that everything is fine. Children come here with great joy. And parents don't have a single concern, and no worries have come about concerning this issue.
Residents of Berdyansk have responded to the issue in different ways, depending on their awareness of the situation.
People have no jobs. Large vessels aren't coming in anymore because the bridge doesn't let them. They're not that tall, but still they won't be able to come. As far as I know, they're being stopped and searched.
Do you think that this situation will affect the lives of ordinary people in Berdyansk?
Of course, the port offered great pay. People were getting more than $760. Now, as far as I know, they're getting $110 to $150.
No, I haven't heard anything about this.
Do you think the holiday season is going to go smoothly this year?
I think so, yes. A little more sun and it will get hot, so everything is going to be fine.
Only cargo ships are sailing. We don't see anything else.
Meanwhile, the crisis situation in the Azov Sea grows worse, and the Russians continue to use the treaty to economically suppress Ukraine and the region as a whole. Experts from the Maidan Foreign Affairs Organization have recorded cases of detention of vessels in the Kerch Strait and Azov Sea. They also draw attention to the lack of diplomatic reaction from Ukrainian authorities to the belligerent behavior of Russia in the Azov Sea.
Half the country is telling them to do something. This could go beyond the goal of social pressures in Berdyansk and Mariupol. This could be a part of a broader military political cooperation, which could concern not only the Azov Sea, but the Black Sea. Because of the potential of the Navy, we have some sort of coastal defense by both seas, but the one near the Azov Sea is not as good.
Experts predict several options for further development of the issue. Russia could strengthen its blockade of Ukrainian ports and try to unilaterally establish control over the Azov Sea, which could be a preparation for a new set of aggressive military actions on land. The information resistance community has provided its own analysis, where one of the hypotheses is that Russia is creating further conditions for trade, using its blockade of Ukrainian ports as leverage in exchange for the resumptions of supplies of Dnipro water to occupied Crimea. There is another interesting point. Unfortunately, the agreement of the use of the Azov Sea and Kerch Strait was proposed to be denounced as early as 2015, but the committee scrapped the bill because of the fear that the cancellation of contracts will lead to a blockade of Ukrainian ports. Their concerns weren't found.